NDP Leader Avi Lewis, thanks for being with us.
Pleasure to be with you.
Let's start first with your overall response to this update. Obviously, it's a time of great uncertainty. How well would you say it meets the moment?
Well, we've heard the word affordability dozens or hundreds or thousands of times today, but this spring economic update was an opportunity for the Liberal government to really bring in concrete measures, new measures, that would address the everyday emergency of the cost of living crisis for Canadians. It didn't do that. We don't see anything in there. There's a lot of re-announcements of previous announcements of announcements, but there aren't any new measures that directly address the fact that people are skipping meals to feed their families, that people are living paycheck to paycheck, and that the cost of food and housing is spiraling, and still this government is not doing anything that actually addresses that emergency in concrete ways for working class Canadians.
As you said, there's little in the way of new measures. There is a cut to the CPP contribution is one measure that I guess will take some of the cost off allow people to keep more of their paycheck. They are pointing to, as you said, other measures that they've announced. What do you make of the absence of new measures? Is this the government signaling that this is all that it feels it can do in terms of meeting the moment when it comes to cost of living?
I think what we see in this government is a pattern where public money is given to, well, the Prime Minister likes to say catalyzing private investment. We would say corporate welfare or subsidizing profitable corporations in the hope that the market will save us. Whether it's the $140 billion that they announce to deal with the housing crisis over 5 years, 2/3 of which is foregone revenue. So canceled fees and tax cuts for developers rather than actual public money. And of that third of the money that is actually new public spending, we are not seeing non-market housing, non-profit housing, cooperative housing, supportive housing, the bottom end of the market. That's really the people who are struggling the most, who will never be able to afford these completely off the charts rents and mortgage payments. We need to take care of the vast majority of Canadians who are struggling with housing prices. And the Prime Minister likes to talk about a wartime build-out of housing. He's referencing a period after the Second World War when the government did things itself by taxing corporations appropriately and spending public money on public goods. And this government just doesn't do it. Look at the Sovereign Wealth Fund, this shiny new initiative. And the Prime Minister references Norway as the model. In fact, we have the polar opposite of the Norwegian model. In Norway, they have a publicly owned oil company. For decades, for generations, they have been harvesting an appropriate amount of taxation and filling up this fund that's now $2.2 trillion US dollars, and has given them a solid social safety net, a route off of fossil fuels. 100% new vehicles are electric vehicles in Norway. What are we doing? We're not taking money from private industries and putting it to the public good. We are giving public money to this fund that's going to catalyze, otherwise known as subsidize, these big, profitable, so-called nation-building projects, including what is likely a new oil and gas pipeline from Alberta to British Columbia, promised in the MLU with Danielle Smith, which could be now subject of this Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is going to be seeded with public money. It's a sneaky way, if that happens, to publicly subsidize a very profitable industry due to make $90 billion in excess wartime profits in oil and gas this year.
Right. Well, Norway is certainly one example of a country that's managed to use its natural resources to fund its prosperity. I do want to turn to one of the new measures announced in this update. One of the centerpieces is the launch of what the government is billing as Team Canada Strong. It's this goal of training up to or between 80,000 to 100,000 skilled trades workers, creating opportunities for young Canadians who we know are facing right now a very difficult job market. So what do you make of that push? Is that something that your party supports in principle?
Oh yeah. On the face of it, this could be a wonderful initiative to have a lot more apprenticeships for skilled trade work. This is a fantastic thing. The question is, will there be strings on that money to make sure that the provinces actually spend it on apprenticeships for skilled trades? For instance, right now the federal government is giving money to Ontario and the Ontario government for skilled apprenticeships, and Ontario is not even spending it on that. So the question for me is, and this is particularly poignant on the day of mourning, the National Day of Mourning for workers who are killed, injured, or made ill on the job, are we going to see workers and trade unions at the table in the implementation of that plan? Because when I look at this government's approach and you look at all the private sector forecasters that they rely on, you see the big list of banks and bank economists at the beginning of the document, and we have a banker prime minister. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but we need to see workers and working class people and trade unions at the table in the way that program is implemented. Otherwise, it's just not going to work.
Before I let you go, I also want to ask you about Alexandre Boulris's decision to leave your party to make a run with Québec solidaire in Quebec. Obviously, this is a massive loss for your party. I think you and your colleagues have said as much. There will be a by-election in Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. How big a test is this for your party? Because if you can't win this riding, how can you possibly hope to compete elsewhere in Quebec?
Well, one by-election is one by-election. Obviously, it's a seat that we're going to work really, really hard to keep. There's already lots of conversation in the riding among some excellent possible candidates who want to take a run at it. We are very committed to the ground game, and my own vision for rebuilding the NDP, and the reason that I'm not running in a by-election in the near future myself, is because I want to go from coast to coast to coast and help the party rebuild at the grassroots. And that's what we did on the leadership campaign. We had thousands of new members in Quebec. In almost every single federal riding, we signed up new members in Quebec. We had hundreds and hundreds of people at our last big rally in Montreal. It's not showing up in the mainstream reporting, but underneath the surface, there is momentum, I am convinced, at the NDP grassroots, and this by-election is one that we're going to work really, really hard to win.
We'll see how it plays out. NDP leader Avi Lewis, thanks again for making time for us tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.